So we have talked about IELTS and we have talked about CBT, and finally it's time to talk about the OSCE. Mamayang buntag and good morning everyone. It's finally time that I discuss my experience and tips about OSCE. So it's been a while that I've been saying or telling you guys that I'm gonna finish this 3-part series, or should I say 3-video series, and it's all about experience and tips. I did share my experience and tips about IELTS and CBT, and now it's time for my experience and tips about OSCE. So it's quite hard for me to share my experience and tips about OSCE, and that's one reason why it took a while for me to upload this video, because it is really, how do you say that? It is something that we are very much asked to keep silent about, because just in case when I was about to take it, we've been told this specific instruction that if they do find out something, or like if they found out that we have shared some tips about this, we'll get wrong, and of course I'm afraid to lose my license if in case that happens. So I was really cautious in terms of sharing tips about OSCE, but instead of actually sharing what was the content of my exam or what is going to be the content of your exam, I've decided to just share what they have on their website. So the info that I'm going to share has actually changed, or the info that I was planning to share before is actually different from what I'm gonna share now. The reason is, as we all know, the pandemic happened and there's been a lot of changes in terms of the policy and protocol of NMC regarding the OSCE. But before we proceed to that, let's first discuss what is OSCE. So OSCE means Objective Structured Clinical Examination. So in terms of wanting, or if you are planning to get your license here in the UK, you have to finish 3 major exams. This is what I consider. This is from my opinion. You have to finish 3 major exams, which is the IELTS, the CBT, and the OSCE. So for IELTS, I have shared my experience and tips, and also for CBT. And if you haven't watched that, I'm gonna put the link in the description box down below, or I'm gonna share it right here, right now. So I'm just gonna focus on the OSCE. Who needs to take the OSCE? So we are focusing on nurses who, same like us, we are trained outside the EU. OSCE is for those overseas nurses who doesn't have a comparable qualification, and also for those who had a COVID-19 temporary register here in the UK, so that they can work in the meantime while the OSCE before was postponed or cancelled. So for these 2 criteria, they both have to take the OSCE to acquire a permanent register. Booking the OSCE. If you have booked your OSCE before the pandemic or before your test center was closed, you will receive an email explaining to you about your options on rebooking your OSCE. In my experience, it wasn't, well, in my experience, this happened before the pandemic again. It was all done by our trust, so I did not know how to actually book this, therefore I could not share the exact details on how to book your OSCE. But as they have mentioned in the NMC website, you will receive an email containing your options on how you can rebook it yourself. But if you don't have any existing booking for an OSCE, you can contact the test centers regarding your options. And there are 3 test centers here in the UK. One is in the University of Northampton, where I took my OSCE. The second one is in Oxford Brookes University. And the third one is in Ulster University. If you ask me where it is, I'm not sure, so just Google it. I'm just being honest, guys.
Oh my god! Wow!
So, anyway, I've been discussing to take OSCE, how to take OSCE, and who are those people who need to take OSCE, but I haven't explained to you what really is OSCE. So I've explained that OSCE means Obstructive Structured Clinical Examination, but what is it all about? I'm just gonna read the definition here by NMC on what OSCE really is, and it says it is a practical exam designed to test your theoretical knowledge applied to clinical practice. The exam will reflect clinical practice that you're likely to encounter here in the United Kingdom, so you should approach the OSCE in the same way that you would in clinical practice. So there are 6 stations of the OSCE. We can divide them into 2. Part 1 and Part 2, each part includes 3 stations. So the first 3 stations are scenario-based, where you'll follow a person through a series of clinical situations. So this includes assessment, implementation, and ongoing care for an individual person in a variety of care settings. Again, I cannot further dwell on what the content will be because they differ quite a lot. And if I am right, or if I'm not mistaken, when we took our OSCE before, they have certain topics. However, gradually or up until this point, they've been changing it. So there's quite a lot of scenarios now. So you would just really have to study hard in order to make sure that you'll pass the exam. Now, for Part 2, which includes the next 3 stations, it is skills-based. So, sorry if I keep on looking downwards. My laptop is here, so I'm checking on the NMC website. I don't want to share wrong information to you guys, so I just want to make sure that what I'm sharing is written here in their website. But yes, so the second station or the second part includes 3 stations which are skills based, and I'm pretty sure for nurses out there, you would know what type of skills the UK is looking for. And for those who are about to take the OSCE and is watching this video, I'm pretty sure you've practiced already. So yes, hopefully you pass this test, guys. And you might ask, if this examination is to test my skills, do I really need to take the exam? Of course, you do, because as I have mentioned before, you have IELTS, which is a requirement to apply for an NMC license. But there are 2 tests of competence. That is a CBT, and the second one is the OSCE. So you do need to take it. I'll just say it like that because there's quite an explanation here on the website. But bottom line is, you need to take it, or else you don't get your permanent register. So how do you prepare for your OSCE? So there are different ways to prepare for the OSCE. If you're still in the Philippines, your agency might be sharing or might be giving you a few sessions to help you out and give you a clear idea or somehow an idea on what the OSCE will be, so you can attend those sessions. And for my agency, ASC Global Recruitment, again, I'm not paid to promote them, but they did help me achieve my goal, my dream to work here in the UK. So I'm sharing that they do have in-house sessions and they do train the nurses on what could possibly appear in the OSCE. And the moment you reach here in the UK, your trust is also gonna help you pass the OSCE. So now the trusts have different ways of helping their nurses to take this OSCE. With regards to my experience, I've shared this before. We had like a few days every week session with our clinical educators, and during those sessions we were trained. We've experienced different types of training with them just to prepare us for the OSCE. But I have heard that different trusts give out somehow something called camps to train their nurses. I'm not sure if this is true, or I don't have any further details about it, but I can assure you that you do have time to study for it or to prepare for it the moment you come into the UK. Aside from the training that you can have before coming to the UK and after coming to the UK, there is a candidate information that you can see on the local test center websites that might help you, and also they provide mock tests for you to practice on before you can take your OSCE. So just visit the websites of the 3 test centers that I have mentioned before. So aside from those tips that I said on how you can prepare, the NMC link also shares the essential reads that you can find or that you need to read here in their website. And one of those is the nursing code. The next ones are the standards of proficiency for registered nurses. And they do have test blueprints as well. And of course, for new nurses coming over, we need to pass the adult general nursing. So do click on the links that they have given on their website. I would just like to share a short story or a short part of my experience when I took my OSCE. When we took our OSCE, there were 35 nurses, or I was with 34 other nurses. There were 35 of us, so we had to be separated into different groups. So we've taken, like, one group took the OSCE on a different date, the other group took the OSCE on a different date. So yes, you see the picture. So during my time, I think I was part of the second group. I can't remember now. It's been a while. I've been here in the UK for almost 5 years. We were on our way to the exam, so we went there like the day before the exam. We arrived in University of Northampton. It was late already, like around 5 or 6-ish. And so we actually got time. So you can either take your time to study more or you can take your time to, have a breather and check the city first before your exam. So what we did that time was we went out, had a group dinner, and we went back to our hotel rooms. And basically, I just prepared. My advice as a exam taker is not to study the day before. I don't know if it's the same with you guys, because I feel like if you have no choice, of course, you can study the day before, but always take time to just relax, calm your mind, ease your mind, so as not to panic, and just relax. You should not go and take this battle with say battle. You won't go to the battlefield panicking. You should not do that, or else it will just scatter your information in your brain. So make sure that you relax the day before. So that's my advice. And so before the exam, I was just relaxing. I was lying down on my bed, of course, just meditating, making sure that I'm ready for the exam the day after or the next day. Here comes the day of the exam. We went to the location, and you need to make sure that you are dressed appropriately, of course, and you have the requirements that they need before the exam. So if you want to know more about the appropriate attire or the requirements that you have to bring before the exam, please do visit the NMC website. Again, I'm gonna put their link on the description box down below. But let's go back to my story. So we went there, and the time that we actually expected to take the exam was not really happen, I would say, because there has been some delays for reasons that I wasn't sure about. But my exam was moved to an afternoon exam, and my problem is during exams is that I get nervous, and that's why one of my tip was to relax before, but I can't help it. I still get nervous on the day of the exam. So my stomach or my appetite is really terrible on the day of my exam, so I did not eat. So this is another advice that I would tell you guys. Make sure that you eat something before your exam. If it makes you dizzy, or if it makes you nauseous to actually eat on the day of your exam, then maybe try bringing something that you can actually just nibble on while waiting for your time to take the exam, because you don't want to take the exam on an empty stomach, because that might be one reason why your brain would not be able to function properly during the exam. And unfortunately, that happened to me. So I did not eat properly on the day of my exam because of my nerves. We went to the canteen. So again, I said that my exam was moved in the afternoon instead of the morning. So we went to the canteen, and I've seen my friends eating. I couldn't really take it, so I didn't really eat properly. I did buy a meal, but I couldn't finish it. So here comes my time to take the exam on an empty stomach, because again, I didn't finish my meal, and fortunately, I passed. But of course, afterwards, I didn't know that yet, but after the exam, I was really shaking. I was shaking because I had nothing to eat. I finished like around past 6, almost 7 already. I was really shaking, and all I can say after the exam was, can you please get me a meal? I really wanted to eat straight away afterwards. So I would advise to those OSCE takers, I would advise you guys that please do eat something. It's not really nice. Fortunately, I went through it well because I passed the exam, but of course we cannot risk it. So that's another advice. Guys, this advice that I'm sharing, this is just from my experience, and I might not be able to share like all the tips for taking the exam, but you can always search on it. And there's another video that I made about interviewing UK nurses. I also made a video about that tips, so you can also check that out. And that's it. That's your life done if you didn't do well. So make sure that you go to battle prepared. Make sure that you're ready to take the exam. Make sure that you've reviewed properly. Stop procrastinating, guys. I'm pretty sure that your trust will be giving you enough time to study, and it is quite tempting to go out and check your new place, visit the parks, visit what your city has to offer, especially that you're new. You feel like a tourist coming to the UK, but you can always do that if you have passed the exam and you're going to be a resident in that place. Imagine that. It's not worth risking that certain time because you wanted to go sightseeing and fail the exam. It's better if you focus on passing the exam first, and once you have passed the exam, you can permanently go visit visit the place, and you can do it for a number of times because obviously you live there now. There's no limit to visiting these places now. So you rather do that, guys, than sacrifice after if you fail the exam. So just a tip of mine. I always say this, that it's better to sacrifice first and then experience pleasure after, rather than experiencing pleasure first and then sacrifice after. I'm sure you get what I mean. So now that we have taken the OSCE, the next thing is to wait whether we have passed or if we have failed. OSCE is mapped against the expected performance of nurses and midwives at the point of entry to our register. You need to demonstrate safe and effective practice in order to receive a pass. That's what NMC say. So if you pass the OSCE, you will receive an email saying that you passed, and if you have failed the OSCE, you will receive an email on what to do next and also on which stations and elements you were unsuccessful in. Yes, they will let you know what part of the exam you have failed in and what you can do next, and give you an idea of what you should have done so that you could have passed the exam. So, I don't want to talk about this, but if you do fail OSCE, you can take OSCE 3 times, but you need to wait 10 days between each sitting. And if you fail the 3rd OSCE exam, your application will be closed and you'll have to start a new one. And if you still decide that you would still want to be part of the NMC, you'd have to wait 6 months to take the next OSCE. Now, I have met or I have experienced, not me personally, but I do know somebody who have failed the OSCE. Unfortunately, I have friends who have failed the OSCE, but they did manage. Some luckily passed the 2nd exam and some luckily passed the 3rd exam. So your world hasn't ended yet. There's still a chance. So just make sure that when they give you the details on what element you failed in, make sure you work on it and pass it the next time. Because if I'm not mistaken, there's this something called partial fail and something wherein you just totally flunk the exam. So basically, guys, if they say partial fail, you would be able to just retake the exam where you failed in. I have friends who have told me an update about it, that right now with NMC, if you fail OSCE, you will just be asked to retake that part where you failed in. Hopefully I'm right, but that's the latest update that I got. I couldn't find here in the website that says that though. So for anyone who's watching this and who knows whether I'm right or wrong, please do share it in the comment section down below so I find out myself as well. It's also good if you can give us a link about it, but again, I can't find it here in the NMC website with regards to whether you are just going to take the part of the exam that you have failed in. But that's the latest news that I have received from my friends. Hopefully I'm right, so that I'm not sharing the wrong info with you guys. So that's what's going to happen if you do fail the exam. So now that we have the pandemic in, and of course there are certain rules that we need to obey with regards to making our community safer, the NMC did share the links for local restrictions guide with regards to the COVID-19 safety procedures. And if you want to know more about it, again, it's on their link. So they have local restrictions for Ulster University and Oxford Brookes University. The University of Northampton is not included here, so I'm not sure whether they're open or they just don't have the restrictions, but they do have it here. They have what you need to do with regards to ID checks and for those COVID-19 temporary registers. Now, I'm not gonna dwell on it since I just really want to make this video as short as possible. I'm not sure if I achieved that.
I'm not listening to you. You're crazy.
But I hope you like my experience and tips on OSCE. And if you do want me to share more about it, please do let me know on the comment section down below. So if you like this video, hit thumbs up, comment down below if you want to tell me something, say anything, or suggest anything. And please don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell beside the subscribe button so you'll be notified when I will upload a new video. Salamat sa pagkita!